somebody that she won't run over. Amen. You just messed her up right then. Because the problem is, and I'm not finished, y'all catch this out. The problem is God never intended. God never intended. See, when you said somebody for your daughter not to run over, what you did was basically said, I want my daughter to have a weak man. But I didn't say that. I said I wanted her to have somebody that she won't run over. But you did. Because you forgot to tell her that she doesn't need anybody she can run over. She needs somebody she can be subjective to. She needs somebody she can be submissive to. You put in her head, you don't want her to. It got real quiet. You put in her head, you need somebody you can't run over. But as soon as that Negro grab around her throat, you ready? You ready to take him out? Oh, you don't put your hands on my baby. But you just said she don't need anybody she can run over. So as soon as he stands up and says, wait a minute, she says, who you talking to? So the problem is that when that happens, the relationship is gone. Simply because, can I tell you why? Simply because the order has been messed up. If you go to the book of Genesis, this thing freaked me out when I looked at it. When you go to the book of Genesis and you look at the account of where Eve was talking to the serpent, I used to think Adam wasn't there. But when you look at it, it says Eve took the apple from the tree and gave it to Adam. In other words, you're too busy talking to snakes, and brothers, we too passive. And not telling the sisters that's a snake. And you ain't got no business talking to a snake. So what happened was, Eve gave Adam the apple, Adam took it, and the fallen man came. And so what happened was that Eve distorted the order. Now y'all stay with me because I'm really finished now. I'm really about finished. What happened was that when the order became distorted, women began to look at men as the head. Women began to look at their mates as the head of the house. So y'all began to say things like, if you're going to be a man, be a man. Oh, y'all know how y'all do. Y'all know how y'all do. I thought she was a man. Y'all know how y'all do it. But see, the problem is that you're looking to the man, i.e. me, as being the final authority. But God never intended for you to look at me as the final authority. God said what happened is that you looked at me as the final authority, and when I failed you, you decided to take over. Can I go there? Hey, let me talk about my house. My wife told me to stay out there, but I can't talk about other folks. Amen. Amen. If it wasn't for my wife, I promise you I would have this suit on. Because I have a shopping fetish that would break us. I love to shop. I hate saying admit I got a problem. I have a problem, and it's called sale. Amen. Amen. I probably got more shoes than my wife. That's a shame. But the thing about it is that in her role as financial planner, if you will, she makes sure that the house is stable. Because that's not my expertise. Okay? That's not my expertise. I'm not ashamed to admit it. That's not my expertise. However, before extra money just disappears, 9 times out of 10, she gonna ask me, where's that? And what happened to it? Because she realizes and understands her role in the house. So I just don't pick up the phone. Check this out now. I just don't order offline. 9 out of 10 times. Before I call her and and say, can I get this? Now, that is not to say that she is the man and I am the man. That says in her role as financier, she has to be able to know what's going in and what's coming out. Because I depend on her in October to make sure that I got a week's worth of rest. Although I don't like it, but I depend on her to make sure the vacations are right. Y'all with me? Okay. So what happens is that when she looks at me as the final say-so, she gets lost. Because sometimes my say-so don't line up with hers. Let me talk to somebody who really understands what I'm talking about. Anybody here, when your say-so don't line up with my say-so, then we got a clash. We got what happens here, when you look at what happened to Adam and Eve, you got the first case of the battle of the sexes.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Amen.
So when you look at that, and you begin to see it, you began to say that the man makes the final decision. Y'all know how y'all do. My husband makes the final decision. But if you are surrendered, a surrendered woman, you realize that your husband does not make the final decision. Why? Because when you look at the order, you say, God, Jesus, man, woman. So when my decision, my final decision is not the right decision that lines up with you, you buck. You buck. But the problem is that you're basing it off of my decision instead of just throwing up your hands and say, Lord,
that's right.
You better get this joke. See, you base it off of the final decision as being mine, but it's not mine. Because I got somebody that I got to report to. You ain't the only one that's got somebody you got to be submissive to. I got somebody I got to be submissive to. And if I don't do right, go to mine. Come on. But the problem is you don't want to go to my boss, you want to do it for him. You try to be the boss of me, so I'm going to be the boss of you. No, your job is to go to my boss.
That's right.
You can't handle God's business. So what happens is Peter said, just like the women of old. So I began to say, Lord, what do the women of old got to do with this? He said, boy, don't you realize that there is nothing new under the sun? Don't you realize, I'm finna get in trouble now. Don't you realize that men still tipping? Don't you realize that men still got outside children? Don't you realize that men still got some issues? And I said, yes, Lord, I realize that. He said, but if you look at the women of today versus the women of old, you ain't never wondered why your mama ain't never leave your daddy. And you know, oh Lord, I need to see here. Wait, y'all take the children out. You ain't never wondered why your grandmama was with your granddaddy. He got some children over here. You ain't never wondered why she didn't leave him. Because she knew he wasn't the final authority. She threw her hands up and said, Lord, he's yours. You got to change that Negro. Can I promise you? I know from experience, my granddaddy had 22 children and 18 from his wife. That and I couldn't figure out why she didn't need that joke. 18 children, that's too many for any one woman to have. But he messed around and added to it. Why she didn't need him, Lord? Because she threw her hands up and said, Lord, he's yours. All I'm trying to tell you is that if you want to change that man, throw your hands up. If you want to change that situation, throw your hands up. Y'all don't want to pray with me. Y'all don't want to then get mad when we come back at you. You ain't supposed to hit a woman. You big enough to put your hands on me? I got some Vaseline too. Let's do it. Expect me to stand there while you beat on me? Baby. Talk a good time. So I said, it's all right to beat your wife. Lord, I told y'all to go over there. No, he ain't say that now. Sister, keep your hand in your pockets now. Amen. 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 Keep your hand in your pocket. I'm going to keep mine in my pocket. I'm expecting you to stand there now. I'm trying to run. I'm trying to run. But y'all realize I can't run so far. I got to let it run in front. I got asthma. I get tired. All I'm saying is that if you would just surrender, if you would just surrender it to God,
Amen. Amen.
you're fighting a useless battle.
Amen.
You're fighting a battle that is not even yours.
Amen.
Because you won't give it up to God. And you saying the old women were crazy. No, they wasn't. They just knew how to turn it over to God to keep from losing their mind. Yes, it is true. They don't make them like they used to. Simply because, sisters, you don't have anybody to speak life into you and to tell you that you ain't got no business out there acting a fool behind a man. You out there mad with the other women. You better learn how to get yours. I ain't gonna be able to do that, Pastor. I ain't gonna be able to do that. I ain't gonna just gonna treat me in a kind of way. I ain't gonna be able to do it. I see you shaking your head. I just ain't gonna be able to do it. But all I'm trying to tell you is that you have to learn how to surrender. You gotta learn how to give it up. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm so thankful that I have a grandmama. This is no disrespect to any of you. But I have a grandmama who's a grandma.
Amen.
I'm a granddad. At the age of 40. And I love it. I love it. My grandmama is 80 years